Hello, this video tutorial is about the Hoquetus technique, also called Hocket. That is, the distribution of melody note groups or single notes over multiple alternating instruments. In Western music it originated in the medieval period, but you'll see its application in Romantic symphonic music by Tchaikovsky and a more recent arrangement by Michel Legrand. Hoquetus technique is the distribution of melody note groups or single notes over alternating instruments, and this tutorial discusses its use in Western music through the ages. We start with medieval polyphonic music from the Ars Antiqua period, and you'll see an example, the French Isorhythmic Motet, Alpha Vibrans Monumentum. Then we fast forward 6 centuries and look at the opening measures in the finale movement 4 from the 6th Symphony by Tchaikovsky from 1893. This may be interpreted as a Hoquetus example, yielding a fascinating stereo panning effect. Finally, we study a more contemporary example, the Michel Legrand arrangement of Malagueña by Albeniz, on the album 20 Songs of the Century from 1974. With an outspoken, extreme alternating instrument pattern. In case you like these tutorials, please subscribe. Or support this channel by making a PayPal donation, or instead become a regular patron. Let's briefly introduce and demonstrate Hoquetus technique. The example is the Ode an die Freude melody from Beethoven's 9th Symphony, the majestic finale movement. European citizens may remain seated. With this phrase as starting point, we distribute note groups and/or individual notes over a set of instruments. In green I've marked the orchestration for 2-note subphrases in green and single notes in brown. Using woodwinds, brass, a piano and strings, plus occasional doubling and octave transposition, we obtain the following Hocket. In Western music, the Hoquetus technique origin lies in the medieval Ars Antiqua period, and you'll see an analysis of the Isorhythmic Motet Alpha Vibrans Monumentum by an anonymous French composer from the end of the 14th century. I found this intricate 4-part example in the Oxford Anthology of Medieval Music. Its form displays perfect symmetry, as manifested by the 2 70 measures long talea sections, and the 4 phrases in part 4, the tenor. Each of the 4 A, B, C, D phrases is based on 3 statements of the tenor melody, a kind of cantus firmus. Each subphrase undergoes transformations, and you'll see the retrograde form and rhythmic diminution. Part 3 is the contratenor, and then there are the 2 top parts that are full of shorter duration counterpoint and contain imitation and Hocket phrases. Here's my transcription for flute, violin, trombone and cello, and I've marked the tenor melody for each of the 4 phrases. I left out the lyrics. Listen to the cello and read along with the annotations that indicate the start of the original, retrograde and diminution form. Now we'll focus on the 4 occurrences of imitation and Hocket in the 2 upper parts, marked in red in the musical form overview diagram. The first case starts in measure 30, with quarter note imitation patterns, then a kind of stretto imitation, turning into Hoquetus in measures 35 and 36. It's a fascinating musical effect, in particular in a vocal performance. Remember that this technique is inserted in an already ingenious 4-part counterpoint setting. In bar 64 there is the second imitation phrase, also with Hoquetus character, through the 8-note quarter note pattern starting after the beat. The symmetry characteristic is confirmed in the second half of this Isorhythmic Motet in talea 2. The upper part's imitation and Hocket phrase starting on measure 101 is now on top of the C phrase of the tenor melody. Again you'll hear the quarter note imitation patterns, the shorter note durations stretto, the closing Hoquetus measures, before returning to more homophonic music with syncopated part 2 in measure 107. In strict symmetry approach, there is the closing imitation phrase in the D section of the tenor melody, starting in bar 134. This time I've included bar 3 for trombone in the rendering, as it is also an element in the polyphonic interplay between part 1 and 3. After studying imitation and Hoquetus phrases in detail, now you'll hear this amazing full 4-part Isorhythmic Motet. The score is annotated and I've added voice leading aspects, such as crossing voices, musica ficta accidentals, and particular combinations of leaps and stepwise motion. These demonstrate how this intricate polyphony is significantly different from the later Renaissance and Baroque counterpoint styles. After this fascinating trip back to the future, we fast forward 6 centuries and land on the finale, Adagio Lamentoso from Tchaikovsky's 6th Symphony, the Pathétique. In this tutorial, we look at the opening measures. The complete movement is included in my ebook on musical analysis, Visiting the Great Masters. The link in the description will point you to the relevant web page. In order to prevent copyright issues, I created a fresh MIDI markup. The melody shown here has sentence structure AAB with multi-level subdivision. The A phrase features stepwise descending motion and is the source for another approach with Hoquetus character. What the Hocket technique achieves here is right-left stereo panning. But for a maximum effect one has to take into account the seating arrangement of the string section. Today it is more common to find the positioning of second violins to the left next to the first violins, as shown in the top right. However, in the 19th century it was not uncommon to put the second violins stage right, also known as the German string section setup. In the latter case, at the conductor position there is maximum stereo panning effect, as Tchaikovsky alternates the lead melody notes over the two groups of violins. In the audio rendering, I panned the string section according to the German setup. Here's the full score for the finale opening measures, set for string section and double plus triple woodwinds. The romantic character is also expressed in the dynamic and tempo markings. This phrase builds up to a climax. Listen once more to the Hoquetus violins. And here's my rendering of the full orchestra, with score annotations. When this theme returns later in the movement, Tchaikovsky does not use the Hoquetus approach, for reasons I do not know. This music is in the public domain, and you should be able to find the full score and excellent performance. Another 80 years later we find this example, the Michel Legrand arrangement of Malagueña by Isaac Albeniz for studio orchestra. The track is on the album 20 Songs of the Century from 1974. When my saxophone teacher showed me this vinyl record, it was a deeply formative experience, and it took me decades to find a CD release. Again, we'll look at the opening measures in a MIDI markup to prevent copyright issues. The key is G minor. The form of this introduction is shown on the right. The source melody has period structure ABAB with a deeper level subdivision into ABC ABC. It is this set of phrases that undergoes a Hoquetus technique approach that Michel Legrand applies to the extreme. The first statement is assigned to alternating strings by note groups. The second statement uses note pairs and single notes. All this on top of a sustained deep pitch dominant pedal point. Also notice the occasional doubling and the octave register leaps near the end. This track has more Hocket phrases, as does the entire album, where you may hear many strokes of arranging genius. such as the multitrack recording of 4 pianos and Michel Legrand vocal lines, opposing normal and muted string quartet, 2 saxophone quartets, left-right panning, tape at double speed, choral sections, and great instrumental solos. In short, a masterpiece that never ceases to inspire. Listen to my approximate rendering of the transcription. The main element in this tutorial is the Hoquetus technique, the distribution of a melody line over multiple alternating instruments. 3 examples demonstrate its use through the centuries, starting with a medieval music Isorhythmic Motet, passing through the Romantic era with the stereo panning effect in Tchaikovsky's 6th Symphony, and ending with the Michel Legrand studio orchestra arrangement of Albeniz Malagueña. Use this Hocket approach as orchestration technique in your own music. Text, diagrams and scores are included in the companion document for my patrons. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Support tutorial production through a single PayPal donation or as a regular patron. The links are in the description. Visit the website for more content or purchase books on musical analysis, arranging and rhythm. Thanks for watching.